MPLS label. In this video, I'm going to talk about MPLS label itself and also how we can enabling MPLS with various methods. You know that in the previous video, we configured MPLS, but the configuration of MPLS also is for checking the process of label switching. In this video, we especially will talk about MPLS label and how we can enable MPLS on the network with various methods. Okay, let's get started. First, I want to talk about MPLS label. You remember that we have and had MPLS label. MPLS label is a tag, but what kind of the tag, and for example, what is the size of the MPLS label, what is the content of the MPLS label, we can talk about all of these topics in this picture. Look at this picture. In this picture, I want to talk about MPLS label. MPLS label is a 32-bit tag. The length is 32 bits or 4 bytes. And you can see the contents, the component of the MPLS label. First, I want to write the component of the MPLS label. In MPLS label, we have 4 parts. One 20 bits length part, and then 3 bits length part, and then 1 bit length part, and finally an 8 bit length parts, 8 bits. Okay, these are the components, the MPLS label. But what is these parts? Let's check it. First, 20 bits. This is the actual label. Actual label, the label that you saw in the previous video. The label that is used for label switching. This is the actual label, and it's an integer. For example, maybe 100 or 200. Okay, we have labels. We will talk about these labels, the label range, in future. Okay, and then we experience 3 bits. These 3 bits name is EXP. EXP or experimental bits, and are used for these 3 bits are used for MPLS quality of service. The function of these 3 bits is same as the function of IPP or IP precedence in IP world. You know that in IP world, in traditional IP world, we have IP precedence, and we use from IP precedence for quality of service. And in the MPLS, we use EXP for the quality of service, 3 bits. And then we have another bits. This bits is S bit. S or other name BOS. BOS, bottom of stack. I will talk about these parts. Bottom of a stack or BOS or S bit. And finally, we have another parts in 8 bits. These 8 bits are used to TTL, for TTL. TTL, you know TTL? TTL means time to leave, and has the same function of TTL in the IP world, but in the MPLS word. Okay? Because of that, in a label, in an MPLS label, we have four main parts. First, label value or actual label. Second, EXP or experimental bits. Third, BOS or bottom of label stacking or bottom of stack. And fourth, time to live or TTL. The first part is one of the most important parts of the label that we will use in many scenarios, in many functions. EXP bits only are used to quality of service in MPLS word, and we will talk about these parts in the MPLS QoS course. S bits is an interesting function. I will talk about this in this video. And finally, time to live. The same function of the time to live in the IP word. You know that if a packet is sent and back and sent and back, and finally the packet is stuck in a loop with time to live or TTL, finally after some go and back and go and back, the packet is discarded in the IP word with this TTL field, with the TTL field. And in MPLS also, we use TTL for the same function. If the packet is stuck in a loop, the packet after some forwarding will be discarded. Okay? But let's look closer to the parts of the MPLS label. First, label value. We have label value as the first part in the MPLS label, and the length of the label value is 20 bits. This means that the value in the label value is between 0 to 2 to the power of 20 minus 1. Okay, this is the value of label value or actual label. This is a number. Okay, let's calculate it 2 to the power of 20. Okay, minus 1, and it's the value. Copy and paste. The label value between 0 to this number. Okay, but for special uses, we use 0 to 15, and these labels are reserved label. Okay, and we can use other labels from 16 to the end. 4 are labels in the MPLS network, assignable labels. Okay, I will talk about these reserved labels later. Now only we use these labels, assignable labels. Okay, this is the first part, that is the actual label, and in the previous video I used this for part of the MPLS label. Okay, this is the first part. The second part is EXP, and EXP has 3-bit length, and this means that in EXP field we can have a number from 000 to 111. In decimal, we can have a value between 0 to 7. As I said before, we use experimental bits only for MPLS QoS. Because of that, you don't need to understand the function of these bits now, but we will talk about these bits and the function of these bits